And good evening from Washington. We're going to get right to it tonight. A First Lady double standard. That's the focus of tonight's Angle. She's gracious, she's generous, and she's beautiful inside and out. So if Melania Trump were a liberal, it would be a nonstop love fest from the media. But since she's married to President Trump, it's a very different story. The First Lady's shoes, remember they were wrong during hurricane relief? Remember they mocked her accent in her recitation of the Lord's Prayer before a rally? And now, get this, according to some in the media, she can't even decorate the White House for Christmas properly. Let's recall, by the way, how Michelle Obama was treated when she rolled out her White House decorations.
Next stop, the Red Room, festooned with cranberries and fruit trees.
For Christmas alone, we're going to have more than 90,000 people come through these doors.
How many hands do you shake at Christmas time?
Oh, thousands.
Show me how you do it without getting a...
You know me. This is usually...
But I know, I love that, but you can't do that with everyone.
Hugs. I almost do.
There's so many firsts in the White House. I remember the Chicago Sun-Times, the first time you all came to the White House, there's this big front page story with you in the red dress. The first time you spend the night at the White House, the first cabinet meeting at the White House. What's your favorite first?
Gosh, that's a good question. Christmas, this
Your
is
first Christmas?
beautiful. And I've never visited the White House during Christmas. And it is just absolutely magical.
They are managing a star. She can sell magazines simply by being on the cover. She can sell sweaters simply by putting them on. She's a striking Harvard-educated lawyer who can hold her own next to anyone.
Okay, that is great. It's great. It's great to go back and remember, right? It was her arms. The way she carried. Everything was great about Michelle Obama. Cover of Vogue. How many times? 20 times. And so basically, you'd swear that Michelle, Christmas time, walked on eggnog. But when Melania Trump unveiled this year's spectacular White House Christmas decorations, Vanity Fair went on the attack. This nasty columnist, I've never heard of her name, Kenzie Bryant, suggested that the First Lady had finally made herself productive. This is what she said. Is it safe to assume that we have some clarity as to what she's been up to when she's not traversing the Great Wall of China or making an appearance at turkey parting ceremony? Maybe. It's funny how, by the way, little concern they had for what Michelle Obama was up to when she was jetting all over the globe and hosting private parties at the White House with all the Hollywood glitterati. I mean, every other weekend it was like celebration time in the White House. Remember she was carting her children all over the place at the Harry Potter movie sets, locking down Broadway every time she and Barack had date night. It was all great, all at the taxpayer expense. I can go on and on and on, but it's nearly Christmas. So back to Melania. The First Lady made one of the most elegant entrances I frankly have ever seen at a White House Christmas decoration preview. So she descended the Truman Staircase as ballet dancers performed in the Great Hall. Looked like it was the Nutcracker performance itself. And even that was ridiculed. Vanity Fair this time actually put words in the First Lady's mouth, writing, quote, "Adequately done," she probably whispered to the principal dancer. "I only counted 4 mistakes." Isn't that fun? Online, some are comparing nighttime images of the Christmas decorations to a total nightmare. Well, all the memes, you know, the White Witch of Narnia, it's all up there. But you know what a real nightmare is? It's the double standard that has become so obvious, so routine, and apparently so acceptable where conservative women are concerned. The only acceptable, real, authentic woman in the media landscape today is a liberal woman, a progressive one. And if you're not, you're just too dumb, you're too stupid to know the difference. And remember what these two First Ladies said.
As far as I'm concerned, any woman who voted against Hillary Clinton voted against their own voice in a way.
They will be under tremendous pressure, and I'm talking principally about white women, tremendous pressure from fathers and husbands and boyfriends and male employers not to vote for the girl.
Oh, right, Hillary, we're all damsels in distress, and you're just, Joan of Arc. Well, long ago, these icons of the left and others sounded the dog whistle that it was okay to trash conservative women, and their media lackeys followed orders. It's disgraceful that a White House garden planted and maintained by the Park Service was celebrated for years in the media as a veritable Garden of Eden because it was dreamt up by Michelle Obama. But when a conservative first lady decorates the White House, spends time with D.C. school children, she is accused of exploiting them and was savaged for her wardrobe. What happened to women being able to choose whatever they want to wear whenever they want to wear it? They're always pro-choice when it comes to aborting babies, but you now can't choose what you want to wear? It's a glaring double standard. It has to end. It's so obvious. Leave the First Lady alone and just enjoy the decorations. It's Christmas time, which may well be the most beautiful series of decorations I have ever seen at the White House, and that's the angle. Joining us now with reaction, conservative commentator Monica Crowley, along with Julie Alvin, a liberal analyst. Julie, I want to start with you because I thought, look, Michelle Obama had her own style, she had her own approach, and that's great. And she was the toast of the town for 8 straight years. She's still the toast of the, globe. No matter where she goes, she is the celebrity former first lady, and she's treated, frankly, like royalty. Okay. Why the treatment of Melania? From her accent, even ridiculing her child at one point, and now this with the Christmas decorations. Why?
First of all, I think that all of us here can agree that there's really no point in criticizing Melania's Christmas decorations. That's not something that I think is of particular interest to the public. It's not something that I support. Melania, I think your decorations look lovely. I wish you well. But I don't think that we can forget the way that the conservative media did treat Michelle Obama. And I think that, that's something that you're overlooking here. So, for example, InfoWars called Michelle Obama a tranny, which is something that is so problematic I can't even get into the different reasons why. Breitbart allowed virulently racist comments about Michelle Obama to surface on its website. Rush Limbaugh criticized Michelle Obama for her weight. This particular network had a contributor, a Fox News contributor, who also criticized Michelle Obama for her weight and referred to her as Barack Obama's baby mama. So while I certainly don't agree with this, hoopla over Melania's decorations, I think they look nice. I think she should be allowed to decorate the White House and not receive criticism for it. We can't act as though the media was not critical of Michelle Obama.
Well, the mainstream, we're talking, you're citing a bunch of conservative or, kind of far-right websites. I'm talking about mainstream media publications and people who are on mostly other cable news outlets who rarely come to the defense of Melania Trump when she's pretty viciously maligned. She just started. It's only 10 months into this.
As was Michelle Obama by
the mainstream media? I don't know what you were reading. Let's go to Monica on this. I don't see any mainstream media outlets maligning Melania Trump. Monica, go ahead.
Yeah, Laura, look, we know that for a long time there's been this huge double standard that's operated against conservative and Republican women and in favor of liberal and Democratic women. But the attacks on Melania Trump, all the way down to her Christmas decorations, take this to a whole other level. And that's because she happens to be married to Donald Trump. Donald Trump represents an existential threat to the elite ruling class and the existing order, which he ran on smashing that existing order, and that's why he got elected. Melania Trump is spectacular in every way, and she is a dazzling representative of the United States, particularly when she travels abroad. She did this beautiful display at the White House. So look, what they need to understand, the Trumps and everybody in the White House, everybody in this administration, is that no good deed by them will ever go unpunished. Therefore, they need to absorb that and learn from it and ignore it and just go on doing what they're doing. This country has major issues, which this president and his team were brought in to try to solve, from Iran to North Korea to taxes to immigration to the wall. He is working diligently every single day to try to solve those problems, and Vanity Fair and the left-wing media have nothing better to do than attack Melania Trump's shoes and Christmas decorations. That is actually going to work in favor of President Trump's reelection. I would argue, actually, that kind of reaction by the mainstream media helped to get Donald Trump elected in the first place.
Julie, on the issue of going back to what Michelle and Hillary Clinton said in those sound bites we played earlier, essentially saying that, women are being pressured into voting for Donald Trump, and women are voting against their own interests. Look, I'm a big girl, but I found that pretty insulting. Again, it's insulting. Like, people can't make up. I mean, liberals are always pro-choice, except if you choose to be a conservative, pro-life woman and you don't vote straight Democrat, you got to be dumb because you're voting against what? Aborting your own babies? Or I don't know what it is. But look, I find that to be wild. That's wild that they said that.
I disagree with you. Saying that women voted against their own interests and voting for Donald Trump is an
what,
absolutely
a strong economy?
It's a
roaring
position.
Economy?
It's a defensible position because, for example, the Health Care Act that Donald Trump tried to pass through the Senate had a lot of cuts that would have pertained specifically to women. It would have slashed the Women, Infants, and Children program that helps poor women pay for their families.
Lowering premiums,
I mean,
choice in health care, free market in health care
discussion separately, but he also reversed an executive order that would have put in parental leave protections and would have dismantled some of the problems with pay discrimination.
Do you think a growing economy, Julie, is good for women? I mean, we have a rise in the economy that we haven't seen in many years. Stock market is at an all-time high. Is that good for women? Do women invest?
I think a rise in the economy is good for everyone, and as you can see, if you follow kind of that slope and zoom out, the economy has been doing better and unemployment has been going down for years, not just during the few months.
So wages are actually going up now for middle-class people, blue-collar workers, women and men. Do you think that's good for women?
Yeah, I absolutely think that's good for women, but I don't think that's the only factor, and I also think that some of those changes were already happening during the Obama administration.
Well, Laura, what you're hearing from Julie and what you hear from the left is the result of identity politics that the left has and the Democratic Party have ingrained in women now for decades, right? That they only need to vote on abortion or they only need to vote on certain so-called women's issues that the left has defined over all of this period of time. I find that incredibly insulting, especially when I heard Hillary say that. I mean, I'm a woman. I didn't need to be lectured to. I could make up my own mind, and I happily and proudly voted for Donald Trump. What we're seeing now is that Donald Trump has created a whole new cross coalition. He has actually started this major realignment, or at least has ridden the tiger of this realignment, where now you have women, you have all kinds of different constituencies saying, wait a minute, we are rejecting that kind of identity politics, and we're actually going to use our own heads to vote.
Treat people for their ideas and the substance, and then move on from there. The identity politics, the political correctness, it's all. I think more people are sick of it than are even reported to be sick of it today.
It's collapsing, which is why we have Donald Trump.
Julie and Monica, it's great to have you both on. Thank you very much. And coming up, Grammy nominations dropped today, and while the country grapples to contain sexual harassment and abuse allegations, this year's top nominees are singing a different tune, at least in some of their lyrics, what they're saying. We're going to share that with you and what it's all about when we return. The Grammy nominations were announced today, and they are a doozy. Taylor Swift, Ed Sheeran were snubbed with only 4 noms between them, while those nominated for Record of the Year have created some of the most profane and misogynistic music I've ever heard anywhere. And at the top of the heap, Jay-Z, nominated for his The Story of O.J. We hadn't heard enough of O.J. We need a whole album devoted to it. And Kendrick Lamar for his album, oxymoronically entitled Humble. Here's former President Obama singing the praises of some of these Grammy-nominated artists.
Kendrick and Chance, those guys are doing just amazing work. Jay-Z's still the king. I mean, he's got a track record.
Did you really think Obama listens to Jay-Z and Chance? I mean, I know he's trying to hang cool with the kids there. But I don't even think he listens to this stuff. But are the lyrics of Kendrick and Jay-Z, multi-millionaires, incredible entrepreneurs as they are, what our kids need to be hearing? And now, what is the cultural impact of all of this? Joining us now to weigh in on this, someone who knows just a little bit about this genre of music, is Datewan Thomas. He's the editor-in-chief of Vibe magazine, and he joins us now. All right, Datewan, I need to hear from you because I'm a music fanatic. Okay, I listen to. I do listen to. Love music. Listen to everything. I'm more of a kind of Al Green. I love Ray Charles. Fats. That's kind of my stuff that I love. But I love all music. But tell me why, when you're talking about Jay-Z, you're talking about Kendrick Lamar, why is that music particularly good for young, especially young men today, of any race, of any background?
Well, it's particularly good because they speak to those that they don't get a chance to be heard in situations like this. When you think about, young black men and being targets, for so many years and not having a voice to be able to show some kind of strength and power and empowerment, these are the voices that are there for us. Jay-Z has been one who's made it from, the street to to the stock market, to the boardrooms and presidents of labels and things of that nature. And then Kendrick, he's well on his way as well, being an incredible lyricist, and he's turning into business. So these are actually really good icons to look up to.
Let's talk about, obviously Jay-Z is a well-known story, but he was a kid, wasn't he a cocaine crack dealer? Stabbed his, did he stab his manager or someone in the neck or something?
You got a lot of things going on there, Laura.
Well, he had a lot going on there. Yeah, but you're right. He's an unbelievable businessman. He's worth like $500 million. Incredible businessman. But let's actually look at what some of these lyrics are and what they say to young people. Okay. I just heard your description of why this might be good for people to express themselves. Here's a sample of Jay-Z's lyrics, and it's cleaned up for your consumption. This is from the story of OJ. Okay, this is nominated. Light N-word. I can't say the word. I'm not saying the word. Light N-word, dark N-word, faux N-word, real N-word, rich N-word, poor N-word, house N-word, field N-word.
Right.
House N-word, don't F with me. I'm a field N-word with shined cutlery. Here's a little something from Kendrick Lamar's record, by the way. It's called, again, as I said, Humble. And dissociate with my boo, bae, tastes like Kool-Aid for the analyst. Girl, I can buy yo a word with the world with my pay stub. Ooh, that P word. Good. Won't you sit on my taste buds? That change didn't just happen.
That's all wrong. Well, it's just, it's unfortunate that, you guys picked only those particular lines and not the more uplifting and supportive lyrics that they also put out. And real quick, Laura, the Jay-Z lines, those are actually speaking to what we're discussing now. No matter how far Jay-Z goes, no matter how much he achieves within, mainstream's eyes, he's always going to be looked at as what he was saying. So that's the story of OJ. OJ tried to denounce being black, and then next thing you know, he's being, crucified by the same people that he was trying to impress.
Wait. Are you also defending OJ still? I mean, is he someone we should hold up as an icon?
No. See, that's one of the things you guys do. I'm not defending him. I'm just defending Jay-Z's, actual reason for being able to say what he's saying throughout those hooks. And then real quick, Laura, and then with Kendrick's lyrics, what he's trying to get across there is speaking to a woman or speaking to the audience in a way
it's objectifying
that he can.
The P word, the H word, another of these lyrics. I mean, I could go through almost every song on these albums.
But that's in country lyrics. That's in rock lyrics.
The P word.
Yeah, the P word? You haven't heard them?
I know you only listen to Al Green and
those guys, but you have to understand, Laura, you have to understand that this is a creative license, and they're able to do that from word to word, from bar to bar to verse to verse.
Just so you understand what I'm saying, Dayton, I'm not saying people don't have a right to say it. They can speak on the street corner and swear in front of my kids. They can use the N-word. They can, this is white, black, every genre of people. We can
Trump
disrespect
can
each
do the
other.
Same thing on
Let me just finish. This is not just hip hop. This is the country.
Okay.
But my point about this is, don't we want to really lift people up with?
But you have to hear the other songs. You have to be able to take the whole project rather than bits and pieces that work for your agenda.
The whole project is faith, fatherhood, country, sacrifice, giving of yourself, and I know a lot of these guys do give a lot to
of course,
charity,
Jay-Z
which
has the
is wonderful.
S. Carter Foundation.
That's wonderful.
He gives back, as does Kendrick, to the Compton community. Those are the things that need to be highlighted as well, if you're going to put these things together in a balanced effort.
Well, I actually do, because I actually listened to this, both albums, and I listened to them several times. And
that's crazy, because you called Kendrick's album Humble, and the album name is Damn.
My point. Okay, I ain't everything right. I'm not perfect. But the point I'm trying to make is lifting people up in difficult circumstances. I don't think a single kid who's a gangbanger in Chicago listening to most of the stuff that we're quoting tonight is going to say, hey, I guess I can be just like Jay-Z if I use this kind of language, treat women this way, misogynistic lyrics. How is this good for women? Their success is enough for them
to do that. That's what they are, the shining examples of what their condition is and what they can get out of that conditioning environment.
What, money?
No, not money. No, not money. Influence. What Jay-Z is doing is employing, dozens and dozens of people, sometimes hundreds, as well as Kendrick. So when the Grammy board must think highly of these individuals as creative icons because they're nominated in record numbers. So Jay-Z has 21 or 22 Grammys. There's something good in his music there, Laura.
Do you think anyone is going to be performing any of this music 25 years from now at a Super
They're doing
Bowl
it now. Hip-hop is over 40 years old, and they're still doing it. Jay-Z's about to be 48 next week.
Super Bowl halftime show. That's what I said. I don't think so.
Yes, indeed. Trust me, Laura.
The power of OJ, I don't think
I'm going to take you to one of the concerts. Laura, go to one of the concerts with me. Go to one of the concerts with me. Let's do it.
I'll do that, and then we can go down to Nashville. We can also see some great stuff together.
I'm totally with that.
And we'll write about it. We'll write about it together. You're fun, Dayton. You're fun. I like it. Thank you so much for joining us.
No doubt.
The media is salivating as a former top Trump aide made flip against the president. Breathe some life back into that Russia collusion narrative. I don't know about that. A possibility or fake news? Dershowitz will discuss with the Ingraham Angle when we come back. Welcome back. Much of the mainstream media has been in a lather at the prospect that former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn may flip against his former boss, President Trump. Just look at some of these headlines. ABC News, Flynn's lawyer meets members of special counsel's team, raising specter of plea deal. Vanity Fair, has Mike Flynn already flipped on Trump? New York Times, a split from Trump indicates that Flynn is moving forward to cooperate with Mueller. Is that actually the case? Joining us now, renowned legal expert, Harvard Law prof, emeritus, Alan Dershowitz. Hi, Professor Dershowitz. How are you?
Very good.
Is this really, it seems like the way it's being portrayed, it's the end for Donald Trump. The impeachment gallows are waiting for him. Mike Flynn, because of his work with perhaps what he did with Turkey, might somehow mean that he's flipping on Trump. What could be going on here?
Well, I think if he were actually flipping on Trump and if he had made a deal with Mueller, we'd never know about it. Nobody would leak that information. Part of the deal would be that you have to keep this absolutely secret. I think the question nobody's been asking is who's leaked this and why have they leaked this? Look, I know his lawyer by reputation, and what his lawyer, I think, is doing is offering his client for sale, or at least for rent. What he's saying is he's up for grabs. If the Trump administration wants him, they can have him. Just give him a pardon. And if the Trump administration doesn't give him a pardon, we're available to make a deal with the special counsel. But I don't think the special counsel is ready to make a deal yet because it's not clear that Flynn has anything to offer. First of all, his credibility is worthless. He's already been accused of perjury. Second, he's a witness that's been bought or at least rented. Any decent defense attorney could shred him by saying he'd sell you his mother. He's trying to save his son. He's trying to save himself. He'll say anything. He'll not only sing, he'll compose and create evidence if he has to do that in order to get a deal. So I don't think we're anywhere close to where the media has portrayed Flynn and a deal with Mueller.
And all these months later, all this time later, they're bringing in people, more people from the Trump campaign, including Hope Hicks and the White House counsel, Professor Dershowitz. And people have to understand that the White House counsel does not share an attorney privilege with the president.
Not
So
a personal
that-
privilege. He does.
No,
they do share an institutional privilege. That is
executive privilege.
Yeah.
But what could that pose as far as problems for the administration?
Well, first
Don
of all, I
McGahn,
think the
White House counsel.
I think the administration is not aggressive enough with Mueller. They should be in court challenging what Mueller has been doing. He's going so far beyond any possible scope of his investigation. For example, there were reports the other day that they were investigating whether Jared Kushner tried to get the United States to change its policy toward Israel, the Obama administration, which was going to allow the resolution condemning Israel for occupying the Western Wall, the holiest place in Judaism. Well, let's assume that Jared Kushner did that. He should be praised for it. There's nothing criminal about that. What is Mueller doing? Investigating whether or not somebody during the transition was trying to influence American foreign policy to the benefit of the American people. So I think the Trump administration ought to be more aggressive in challenging the scope of this investigation, challenging subpoenas, challenging who's called as witnesses. This is supposed to be a narrow investigation about whether or not there was illegal, unlawful collusion with Russia. Collusion itself is not a crime. But now what they're doing is going after people for what is the equivalent of jaywalking. Did they sign the right form? Did they include this in the form? That's all an attempt to try to squeeze them into testifying against the Oval Office.
Put them in the big vice and turn the vice around. But why are they not being aggressive? This Ty Cobb guy who's I'm not sure I'm wild about Ty Cobb representing the president. I mean,
he's a good lawyer.
Wasn't he the guy who was eating at the restaurant and talking loudly about strategy and so forth? I don't get that.
Lawyers shouldn't be doing that. He has a very good reputation as a good lawyer, and no lawyer should be second-guessing their strategy without knowing what's actually going on. But it's so obvious that Mueller is going well beyond the scope of what his authority was. I read the letter authorizing his investigation, and what he's done in some of the witnesses he's called and some of what he's subpoenaed. He's now, subpoenaing things that are so far beyond the scope of the investigation.
But why is Ty Cobb or the president's legal team not challenging this? I mean,
that's the question, and that's the question.
That's a good
and also, look, the other point we heard is that Flynn has stopped cooperating. Was he ever cooperating with the Trump administration? Was he ever trading information? I have to tell you, if I were Trump's lawyer, I wouldn't give Flynn one bit of information because there's always the possibility that he will flip. So I think this story has a lot yet to be revealed.
Alan Dershowitz, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
And a question, since when is it racist for a president to stand in front of a painting of another president? In today's world, that's when. You're not going to believe this story when we come back. Don't go away. So is it really racist to have a painting of Andrew Jackson in the Oval Office? Well, first, Senator Elizabeth Warren accused President Trump of racism for jokingly calling her Pocahontas yesterday. Come on, get over it, Elizabeth. Then media outlets piled on, alleging it was even racist to have such a ceremony in front of Old Hickory. The Washington Post informs us that President Andrew Jackson was also called Indian Killer. CNN turned to him and said, well, not a historian, but an entertainer, to explain, well, why that is the case.
He clearly is a racist, and to pretend like he's not. Yesterday, he's honoring Native Americans in front of a portrait of Andrew Jackson, who was called Sharp Knife. He killed tons of Indians, so he can't pretend. It wasn't just a slur. It was that he did it in front of somebody who murdered. The Trail of Tears was based on the guy that was behind him hanging in the portrait. So
the constant defense is that's not what he means. The Andrew Jackson thing, he had no idea about his history.
Then he's too dumb to be president.
I'm sure he went right off Wikipedia to find out about the Trail of Tears. Joining us now to set the record straight is presidential historian, author of the fabulous book, so many of them, Reagan Rising and Citizen Newt, Craig Shirley, along with Elizabeth Warren's conservative challengers, now an independent, self-described real Indian, and he's an MIT scientist, Shiva Ayodhya. Both of you, it's great to have you on. Craig, got to start with you. Andrew Jackson. Okay, it's one of the paintings up in the Oval Office.
Yeah, sure.
I've been in the Oval Office, one of my favorite paintings, a beautiful painting. Set the record straight here.
Reagan also hung Andrew Jackson in the Oval Office.
Another racist.
Yeah, exactly. Every president of the 19th century prosecuted the war against the American Indians. Abraham Lincoln, who one of the co-hosts on NBC cited as being an example for Trump, also prosecuted. There were massacres in Minnesota. There were massacres in Colorado. There was a forced relocation. There were hangings of Indians. So Abraham Lincoln also, and even into the 20th century, Phil Sheridan, who'd been general of the Union Army, coined the phrase, went out to go after Indians in the West, and he coined the phrase, the only good Indian is a dead Indian. Teddy Roosevelt said he agreed with that statement, but he might cut out 1 out of 10 Indians and give them some consideration.
So your point is, none of this criticism, they do it to Robert E. Lee.
That's right.
It's a whitewashing of history.
This is what's known as presentism. This is the fallacy
Presentism.
Yes, the fallacy of imposing current mores and values on the acts and people of the past. It's arrogant and it's stupid and it's ignorant, and it proves no point other than the arrogance of the present people making the charge.
But you see this D.L. Hewley, entertainer, come on, and they said tons of Indians are killed. Now we're measuring them in weight. I mean, tons of Indians killed. But this is the level of ignorance.
Yes.
On some of these other cable outlets that hold themselves out as high and mighty, by the way.
David McCullough said we are now into our 3rd generation of historically ignorant Americans, and this gentleman proves it.
Shiva, I've got to go to you. You actually sent Elizabeth Warren something for her birthday. Now, you're running against her as an independent, and you call yourself what, Shiva, the real Indian in the race? Because you are...
I'm the real, we've been saying, Laura, it's only a real Indian can defeat the fake Indian. And that point that we're making, it hits at a very, very deep level. And it makes everyone chuckle, and the reason it makes people chuckle is because we're bringing out a very, very apparent truth that the liberal white elites, the white liberals, don't want to discuss. And that's the following. If you look at what Elizabeth Warren has actually done, she shoplifted someone's identity. And then when it's exposed, as President Trump did accurately, they throw tantrums and call people racist. In fact, I was called a racist for exposing her and sending her the DNA test kit. But this is essentially the hypocrisy.
Wait. No, Shiva, we've got to remind you. Okay, first of all, you're like a triple PhD, biological sciences of MIT.
I have 4 degrees from MIT. Yeah,
okay,
and my PhD in biological engineering.
Okay, that's all. So you're really smart. So you sent her a DNA test kit, which she refused to. She didn't acknowledge. She didn't send a thank you note. I understand. She didn't do that.
Maybe the instructions.
Yeah, I was very disappointed.
Oh, they were the Sioux language.
Yeah,
yes.
right.
We just get the code talkers in it. Help us. But Shiva, I want to play for you now. Elizabeth Warren takes issue with your claims against her Indian heritage, Native American heritage. Let's just review what she said to verify her Indian heritage. Let's watch.
I still have a picture on my mantle at home, and it's a picture my mother had before that, a picture of my grandfather. And my Aunt Bee has walked by that picture at least 1,000 times, remarked that her father, my papa, had high cheekbones like all of the Indians do.
I can't. That makes me laugh every time I hear it. But it's a serious point. She faked a minority status to list herself at the Harvard Law Directory to get special privileges and special treatment. I don't care what she says.
Yes, it's also cultural stereotyping.
It's cultural. Every Indian has high cheekbones.
Every Indian has high cheekbones. Isn't that a form of racism?
Well,
is papaw a Cherokee term? Papaw? I didn't know. I'm not sure about that either. But go ahead. Go ahead,
I think
Shiva.
the big issue here. I think the big issue here is you have someone who says that they fight for the working people, fight for the poor, fight for people of color, and she has exploited that for her own benefit. And this is not about when they claim that President Trump is making this a racial slur. In fact, she is the one who's a racist because A, she took advantage of someone's race, she shoplifted someone's identity, and when it's exposed, they start screaming and throwing tantrums like children. And that's a fundamental issue here. And what's fascinating is, Massachusetts is where the revolution took place. The irony is Massachusetts has now become the haven of the sewer that feeds the swamp in Washington, D.C. And what I see happening is, our defeating Elizabeth Warren, what we hope to do is to send a wave out that independents, everyday people who actually work for a living, innovators, entrepreneurs, business people like President Trump deserve to participate in governance. And that's what this is really about.
I love it. Shiva, I love what you've done. I love your bravado. I love the fact that you sent her the DNA test kit. That stuff is good.
I sent it on her birthday.
I know, he was very thoughtful of you. Craig, I want Craig to end this out.
Yeah.
The racial obsession is not, as Joe Scarborough today said, that he only does this for, he only defends white Anglo-Saxon Protestants or something like that. He said, well, he's obsessed with people who are not white, like criticizing them. He went,
They are the elites are obsessed with
They are obsessed.
Yes, it's a way of diverting attention. This is right out of the book, The Screw Tape Letters, is to divert attention to things that are not important so you don't talk about the things that are important, like our failing public schools, which can be laid at the feet of liberalism, or failing government, or all the other things that liberals have been
open borders, all of it.
Sure.
And you talk
illegal immigration. Yes,
and Craig, your book, Citizen Newt, was fabulous. Learn a lot from the 1994 period. Shiva, it's great to see you. We'll have both of you back.
Thank you.
And up next, Chicago is crumbling, but a pastor thinks he has a new way forward. Check this out when we come back. Decades of Democratic political rule in Chicago have led to the second city's slow crumbling from the inside. So could faith be part of its renewal? A minister in Chicago just opened a 3,000-seat megachurch in the middle of the city. And he wants his church to be a sanctuary and a safe haven from the allures of crime and violence. But can faith in this church succeed where government has failed? A lot of liberals will doubt that. But joining us now from Chicago is Pastor Horace Smith. Pastor, thanks for joining us. I was thinking about this today when I was reading about you. There are a lot of churches in Chicago. And you got Father Flager with that St. Sabina's. I'm not a big fan of his, but he has his church. You got Reverend Wright, right? Is he still kicking around? You got a lot of churches, a lot of people trying. They've been unable to stem the violence so far. So how is yours going to be different?
Well, I don't think we're unique at all. I think that what we're doing is doing the part that we should do where we are. My argument is this, that you're right. There are not only a lot of churches in Chicago, there are 250,000 churches in America. But the question is to the church itself, are we really doing what we should be doing and make a difference? And that's the key. We cannot turn things around by ourselves, but where we're located and what we're doing can be meaningful and impactful if we really represent what we preach about and then put our money where our mouth is. I think you'll see a difference. So every church must look at its own self and say, what are we doing? Are we really doing the work we're called to do by Christ? Or are we doing something that's more of a social impact thing that just won't work?
Yeah, I've noticed that, and some friends of mine have remarked about some mega churches seem more like it's performance art than it is about Christ, the Almighty, our Christian purpose, and so forth. That's fun. And it's fun to have people on stage and dancing and electric guitars and all that. And that's great. Praise the Lord.
Sure.
But the mentoring, the what you need with these, especially these young boys who many of them are fatherless, have no role models. Just talked about this in the hip hop segment we did earlier.
Right. That's the case that, I'm not against the what you call the pop and the kind of the pull for young people. Nothing's wrong with that. You do something to attract people, that's okay. But once they are attracted, you must have real programmatic things that really hit at the heart of the matter. And it begins with our own example, the leaders of the church, the generations. When we just opened this church, not a new church, we've been there 102 years, but its theme was crossing over with multiple generations. What we're saying is that there's a responsibility of each generation to the other. And in many ways, I think that my generation and the one that preceded me, in some ways, we have really failed these young people. So we have almost blamed the victims. We put them in an environment that's negative, that's scarce of resources, and then we wonder why they're in trouble.
Pastor, without family, without a family unit, especially a mom and a dad, if possible, a lot of single women doing great, good, heroic work, but without a father, it's hard.
No, you're correct.
I mean, I'm a single mom, and I'm very, very, very privileged. I'm very blessed. But there's a lot of kids who have rudderless. They have nowhere to turn, and they go to the gangbangers, and they go to all these influences, and they can sell drugs easily, make a quick buck, and then suddenly they find themselves in prison. I mean, that is the nightmare of Chicago under Democrat leadership. Sorry.
Yeah, but the church can make that difference. You've couched it correctly. Without a father, I grew up, my mother died when I was very young, 10 years of age. There were 6 of us. But my father stood up. My father was the role model. I saw him go to work every day as a cab driver, then as a policeman. He modeled for me, not only modeled for me, he demanded of me.
I knew
He
it.
demanded of me. Yeah. I had no voice in my house. I was directed by my father. But the church can become that. The church has to step in where there's a lack. And again, mentorship, those kind of things, and say, hey, we can be your father. We can be whatever you don't have and make a difference.
Pastor, I want to come to your church next time I'm in Chicago. Is that a deal?
Well, I'd love you to come and worship with us. That'd be great.
I'm coming to hang with you. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you so much for joining us. I knew he had a great, dedicated dad. I just knew it.